Welcome back. So we want to use this form to actually put the data into the database. Previously, we used Postman, and as you can see, Postman received the surname, then it received the value, the given name, gender, date of birth, residence, and it actually stored this information inside our database. As you can see, Timothy Scott, a male, and that is what Postman did. So at this point, it's because we're still developing the back end. And now that the back end is actually functional and is storing our user data into the database, we want to proceed and use the form. And we use our form to post that data into the database. So just to make a few changes on this form, there are some small texts that came along. We will never share your email. We'll just make a few edits on the form, and then we put it in our routes. Okay, so the form is here in VS Code. So for example, we'll never share this. Let's do a shift, okay? Okay, let me highlight this. Let me use a command. Okay, that will be faster. So I'm going to do a Control D. Okay, Control D, Control D. So that helps me to highlight similar. Okay, so let's pop back on the other side. See, so they are gone. Okay, let's also do one more comparison with Postman to see how many fields were required. So the first three fields are surname, given name, gender. Let's see, surname, given name, and gender somewhere here. Okay, then date of birth, residence, email, then date of birth, residence. So we are lacking email. Which else are we lacking? Skills and projects. Okay, so we need to add those, email. But according to our model in VS Code, if you see here that skills is actually not a required field, so is project not a required field. So let's only add email, because if we do not add email, our server will throw an error because email is a required field. So we're only going to add email instead of both email and skills project. So we come to VS Code, we come to our student profile.html and select one of these. Let's get from date of birth, we'll copy that. Where do we want to place it? Email after place of residence. So after place of residence, which is somewhere here, we put email, so it is type text, and then it is an email. So when we cross over to Safari, so we have our email field. So we have all the fields we need to post our information into the database. But now we need to make sure that our fields have a name attribute. So why is that? It's because, for example, when we come here in Postman, surname is a field name, given name is a field name. Now we need to give them exactly as they appear here, because that's the way the model is going to receive them. So we need to put them exactly how we define them in the model. So as you can see, given name was a camel case with an uppercase N. Place of residence had underscores. So this is the exact way our name attributes have to be on the form elements. So let's cross over to the form elements. Let's begin from the top. So surname and given name. So here is surname. We give it a name attribute, name, So that one was just straightforward, surname, then another one here, name. This one was given name with camel case. Okay. Let's get to this. So we're finished given name and surname. Let's get gender, DOB. Gender and DOB, name, DOB. Then gender, gender is lacking something, so the name has to be, so in both situations, for both of these checkboxes, the name has to be gender. So that one of them will set its value to either male or female. So this is gender. So we have covered those fields so far. Place of residence has underscores. Name, place of residence. Okay. Okay, place of residence. Then lastly, email. So it has to be on the input field because that's where the value is going to be captured from. Name is email. So our form is ready to send information to the database. But one more thing, we need to set the action and the method. So the action is going to be this endpoint, add student, and the method is going to be a post. So let's also change that. On the form, we set the action to /add student, and then the method is a post. So let's go into our browser. So here it's running on the server, student profile, correct. So surname is Golola, given name is Moses, was born in, okay, date of birth, okay, this is let's say 1980 /12/12. Is male. His place of residence is Makindye, and his email is moses@gmail.com. Let's submit. So let us check in our MongoDB campus. Let us refresh our data. And unfortunately, we do not have Golola. So where could be, we do not have Golola over here. Let's go back to the VS Code and try to find out why that is the case. So it seems our server was not running. So it's running on port 3200. So over here it should be running on 3200. Oh, it was running on live server. This is a live server port. Okay, in one of these tabs, it's okay. Let's create a new tab for that. So 3200, is it there in the history? No. No, it's here in the history form. This is form. So our route for serving the form is also not properly set up. So currently in VS Code, when we come on on routes. So the route for serving the form is just having this, so we want to send it an actual file. Okay, we say send file, and then so the send file has to be uppercase F. Okay, so that we do not get off the purpose of this tutorial, we shall come back to this later. Let's first make sure that the form is actually, so I'm undoing this up to that point. So I'm going to directly call the form. Student profile, it has to be on a route, sorry. So I can't dodge this for now because it has to be served. Send file. So here we have to add the path. Dot. So we put this in quotes. Dot. So we first have to refer to the current file directory, which is underscore dir name, and then at that point we are going to append. We are going to append the name of the HTML file, which is student profile.html. So at that point we have appended student profile.html. So let's check if we invoke the /form. So it is saying error, no such file or directory, users, refactory, it's usually here, so routes. So it is looking for it in the directory of routes instead of looking at it from the parent directory. So at this point we're going to have to use the path. So when we go back to VS Code, you see when we use this dir name, it's trying to refer to the current directory in which this file user.js is in a folder called routes. So this is producing an error. So at this point, in order to refer to another path, which is not the current directory, we need to use the path. We need to use the path module. So also it's going to be a wise decision right now at this point to move our student profile.html into the views folder so that we stick to the MVC model. So at this point, let me put it inside views. Are you sure you want to move student profile into views? Yes, move it. So at this point, we are going to use a path to, we have to first require it at the top. The interesting thing about path is that we don't have to install it. Path is by default path comes with the express. So here we're going to require path. So we have required path. So the next thing is to use it in our sorry, we're not supposed to require it in the route file. So over here we are going to use our path. So that is path.join path.join path.join. Okay, I need to find out how. Okay, this is path.join. We put in bracket. dir name in views, then our file is called student profile.html. So let's try to serve our file over here in our Safari. So it's saying path is not defined. Where? Inside. So it's good to see these errors because I'm sure some of you have been encountering these errors. So we need to find out how to solve these errors. So it's the reference error is saying path is not defined. Where? Under the route user JS on line 13. So it's saying on line 13 we're using path, but then we have not defined it. So let me try to import it over here. I saying const path, then I'll say require, then path. So let's go back to our web browser and try to solve that. So it's saying no such file or directory under views student profile.html. So when we come back here, so path was supposed to be required from within this file, but it's saying it cannot see this. Okay, so when you're concatenating different paths, you have to put them in separate quotations. So that was the issue there. When you're using path, let's reload this. Okay, let's see. So right now, no such file or directory at routes views. So it's looking for it through routes. So this is a wrong hierarchy. Okay, so let's first try to remove this HTML and then render our file again, send our file. So there is a problem here. So we are saying that views is under routes, which is not the case, because at this point we're saying routes and then we're saying views, yet routes and views are in separate folders. So the reason, so put here, I say it's supposed to come out of the parent folder, come out of the current folder, go into the parent folder. That's why we have the dot signifies that come out of the current folder and go into the parent folder. So when you look at it here, we are instructing it to come out of the routes folder and go into the parent folder. So let us try to serve this again. So this time round, the error message is no such file. Okay, it's because previously we had removed the .html, so there is no file called student profile. So let's try to add the .html again and try and see if this time round our form will be served. Great. So that's how we debug errors. Thank you for sticking with me in this debugging period. Hope your patience wasn't tested. But our goal, we wanted to send our excuse me, there are some cartoons playing on the TV here. Anyways, so let's add Golola Moses once. Okay, let's add a different person. Let's say we want to add Eddie, Kenzo. Oh, Kenzo is his given name. Do these guys have given names? These guys only have stage names. Eddie, Kenzo, and then let's say he was born in what, 1980? I don't know if he's that old. On December the 12th, he's male, and he stays where? In Makerere. and his email is kenzo@gmail.com. So let's try to add Kenzo. Creation of student failed. Yes, so we are seeing more errors at this point. Let's come to our Visual Studio and go at the top of the error stack. So it's saying email is required. User model validation failed. Email, path email is required. So when we come to models, we have email, and when we come to our HTML, we have email. In our HTML input, we have an input called email. Yes, we have one. And did we submit it? Let's check if we submitted it. We actually did submit it. All right, let me take a quick break. I'll be back, and